So hello and welcome back to exploring Azeroth slash Kalmandor with probably just Beryl this time. Although I don't know, I might pull Onyx in just so that we can check out at least the Horde encampments in Feralas, which is where we are going to be exploring today, starting with New Threlnar. Also, I'm pretty sure I messed that up. I think it's New Thalnar. There's no R in the middle of that. But you know what? I have a nasty habit of putting letters where they don't belong. Now, New Thalnar was an outpost that the Night Elves established after the original city of Thalnar was destroyed by the Cataclysm. And as you can see, they are currently fighting the Grimtotem Tauren. It's been going on for years. Who knows if it'll ever stop? Probably won't. Now, Feralas is huge. It is such a giant zone that I know I'm not going to be able to do it justice, especially considering there's two kind of zones that are in Feralas, but they're also kind of not in Feralas, and we'll be going to one of those here in a little bit. Now, this is the Emerald Summit. This is where you can actually fight one of the very last dragons of Nightmare, whose name is Terrar. His sister, the green dragon Yosandra, asks you to help finally vanquish him and put him out of his misery. Straight up ahead is Camp Mojaki, which we'll probably get Onyx in to check it out, although there's not a whole heck of a lot there. It is a Tauren camp. I do remember it does have some interesting little quest chains that are attached to it. You know, it's funny, I was going to do my quest chains video this week here in Feralas because I know I've quested here and had a great time. This is a beautiful zone that is full of so much Night Elf history, but at the same time I couldn't think of any quests that really stood out to me. Now we do have the little Night Elf camp of Shadebow. They are being assisted by the Worgen. So if you're looking for anything to help with your Worgen rep, that's an area that you can do some questing in. Now, I was talking about there is a very special little thing just to the south of Shadebow. And it's not really in Feralas. It's not really in Silithus. It's not a part of Ungoro Crater. It's not really a part of anything, but it's very, very cool. And it's a great spot if you are just looking for a place to hang out with friends, and that is the steam pools. You can come here, you can relax. There's no enemies, except in one very special case. If you do manage to find the camel statue in Uldum and you click on it and it doesn't turn to a pile of dust, you'll be teleported here where you get to fight a boss for the reins of the two-humped riding camel. Now, the steam pools is kind of fun because it's just a vacation spot, and there are a few characters that you might recognize. Not too many, but I'm pretty sure that Mr. Johnny Awesome is around here somewhere. I know I've seen him before. And he's just taking a break. He's still a little bit salty about missing his Sparkle Pony, and it also looks like there is a guild that is here and relaxing, which is honestly the best thing that you can do here. Oh, there he is, I think. Nope, that is not him. Well, I know I've seen him here before. I don't want to disturb that guild over there, so we won't poke in too much. Couple other things at the Steam pools that is really, really incredibly fun is there is a tribute to a famous person here. And that is, you can come over here and talk to Gordon Tramsey, the head chef. Obviously a reference to Gordon Ramsay. I don't think he calls you an idiot sandwich, but you never know. He says, no, do you have what it takes to stay in my kitchen? Honestly, I think Blizzard should change his voice line to something about an idiot sandwich, because I personally think it would be funny. Also, if you happen to need your riding mammoth washed, just like up in Pandaria, you can take your yak to a yak wash. Well, here near Feralas, you can take your mammoth to the mammoth wash. It's just, I'm not sure why this is here, but I'm glad it is. It makes me happy. Alright, back to Feralas. Alright, just ahead we have the Dark Mist Ruins, which is an archaeology site and the site of a bunch of old high elf ruins. Now, when I'm saying high elf, I am not talking about the blood elf version of high elves. I am talking about the night elf version of high elves. The ones from 10,000 years ago who kind of ruled Kalmandor for a long time. And the Dark Mist Ruins is the site of an area. It was a small city where pretty much all of the high elves here turned to a dark magic, and anyone who didn't agree with the dark magic ended up kicked out. And there's a quest chain that you can do here where you're basically duped by a high elf poltergeist. Now, you also have the Lost Apprentice here, and you can actually find his campsite. It is not too far away. I can't remember exactly where it is right now. But you end up duped by a high elf poltergeist into kind of resurrecting them, and then you have to put them back down. It's a fun little quest chain, which Beryl has already done, or I would probably do it with you just because it's kind of cool. Directly ahead of us is the Ruins of Isilden, which was a night elf city that was destroyed 10,000 years ago, about the same time as the Sundering, and has been completely taken over by ogres. The Gordani warlocks have kind of infested the place, but you can still go inside and see what looks like an old Temple of the Moon. It's really beautiful and honestly kind of underused, but it does make for a really cool, again, hangout spot. I'm always looking for just really nice places to hang out with friends, and this is definitely one of them, especially since the ogres don't seem to go into the old temple. Not exactly sure why not, but you know what? We will roll with it. Now, you can usually tell, right now we are in the Feral Scar Vale, and the Feral Scar Vale is the site of one of the OOX quest chains, which OOX is an annoying little robotic chicken that you'll find in 3 different places in World of Warcraft. He is here in the Feral Scar Valley. Also, you can find it in Tanaris, and it is up in the hinterlands. If you escort all of them, I'm pretty sure by the end of escorting all of them, you get your own robot chicken as a final quest, but it's kind of annoying. I mean, it's an older escort quest. They're always kind of annoying. There's also a quest for hunters to skin these yetis, which always makes me feel a little bit weird because I'm pretty sure that yetis are the only humanoid that you can skin, which is just a little disturbing. You know, if you stop and think about it, that's a little bit disturbing. Right there, we are at the Tower of Estulon. There isn't a heck of a lot here, but again, it's a little questing hub. The biggest questing hub for Alliance side players is going to be Feathermoon Stronghold, which has got one of my favorite houses in this area. I was going to say in World of Warcraft, but I have so many houses that I've found that are just amazing. But yeah, you can come down here to Feathermoon Stronghold, named after Chandris Feathermoon, who is the adopted daughter of Tauren and Malfurion. And as you can see, the Night Elves are battle ready. And as I said, probably my favorite house, although I do more specify this as an apartment. And since World of Warcraft doesn't actually have housing, I will just show you one of the many houses that I would offer as a real estate agent if I were in World of Warcraft as a real estate agent. This is a lovely one-bedroom apartment at the top of a tree in beautiful Feathermoon Stronghold. As you can see, you've got a lovely bookshelf, nightstand, you have your dining table, and a beautiful four-poster bed with a little privacy screen for your changing area. What more could a night elf need? Actually, I do love this house. There is another one that is almost identical to it that is actually in Outland. So if you didn't think that there were houses in Outland, there are. But yeah, figured I would show you that. There is another apartment that is almost identical to this one, but just a little bit ruined on this island out here, where the old Feathermoon Stronghold was. It's been a bit overrun, and this one would definitely count as a fixer-upper if I were a real estate agent. But, you know, if you don't mind a little bit of combat going on under you, and the named NPC that is, I guess you could just say, is your live-in companion, you could also have this apartment right over here in the ruins of Feathermoon. I'm not sure exactly who Bethan Bluewater is, but, you know, if you don't mind a roommate and you want someplace a little more isolated even than Feathermoon Stronghold, this is a good house for you. It is on a bit of a tilt, though. Not sure I really would like that. Now, while we're over here, we will run around and check out the rest of the ruins of Feathermoon. As you can see, we are fighting Naga everywhere. And there's another archaeology dig site at the far side of this island in the ruins of Solarsal, which is Night Elven ruins, although even though you want to call Naga and Night Elf one people, I guess technically they really aren't, even though they really are. But yeah, there's a lot of quests that are attached to the ruins. I say a lot, it's probably only like 3. And unfortunately, none of these buildings are open for exploration. But it's still very aesthetic, at least until you come up to this beautiful post that has screaming faces on it. A little disturbing. But, sure. The poles of screaming faces. You gotta love it. Alright. We have a couple more little things for Beryl to explore, and then Onyx will take us through and check out the Horde places, and then of course we will touch in on Dire Maul. Alright, our last questing hub is Dreamer's Rest. It is a very small questing hub where you will be asked to help with a harpy problem. Now, back in the day, this used to be, and it might still be, a spawn point for a elite world boss green dragon. As you can see right now, we just have this dragon, Feralas. Now, this is really interesting because here in the Dream Bow and Onyx, I think I'm saying that right. Onyx? Yeah, sure. It's a area for the green dragon flight and for a few that have been obviously corrupted, as you can see by the fact that they are all hostile. Now, they're not elite anymore. I do understand that back in Classic, these guys used to be elite and they used to really mess you up. I don't remember coming here pre-Cataclysm. I mostly stayed over in the Eastern Kingdoms back then. Now, one more really cool thing that, again, it's not precisely in Feralas, but then again, it's not precisely in any other zone either. It's kind of its own thing, is Lake Dumont. It is just north of the Dream Bow. And in the middle of this lake, there is an odd little island. And on this odd little island, which is still on fire, so obviously we've had some issues here, are a bunch of NPCs that appear to be stranded. We've got the cat Sandy, who's wandering around. And from what I understand, all of these NPCs were named after Blizzard developers who worked on this area in Cataclysm. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what I read. So here we have Judah Meller. We've got Johnny Throp. They're out here keeping watch, along with Lucas Marino and Brian Horn. And then rounding out the crew, we have Casey Fulton, who is sleeping, along with Rocky, who is over here patrolling. Brandon Vanderpool and Sam Vanderpool are having a good old time. They're having a dance party. Matthias Volkert looks like he's a little tense, a little worried. Larissa Busel, Jake Patton, and Marianne Skewers are having a little bit of a conference. And I think Ryan Sly, he's kind of given up. He seems resigned to his fate. Now, one other thing that I did read is there is not a name carved into this, but if you mouse over, this is a grave site to someone named Ivan, who I do believe is the father of one of these NPCs who died during development. So it's just a kind of a neat little area with no real backstory behind it other than what I have found that could all be complete BS for all I know. I don't know if Blizzard's ever actually said for sure what the heck is up with Lake Dumont. But it's a fun little place and kind of neat. Alright, we're going to turn the things over to Onyx, who is going to take us through the Horde areas, and then we will drop in and say a little bit about Dire Maul, and then that'll be it for the week. Alright, so now we are with Onyx, who is at Camp Mojaki, where the Tauren from the Thousand Needles Freewind post have kind of been flooding in for years now, because Thousand Needles flooded and their town is now underwater, so that is putting a little bit of pressure on Camp Mojaki, because these are their brothers and they have to help. And that is most of what your questing over here is going to be involving, is helping out with the refugees, and also fighting against the Woodpaw Gnolls of the area, who the Tauren have been fighting for years. You can go along up here and you can see a few more Tauren areas, but they have been fighting for quite a long time, and the Grimtotem are another tribe of Tauren, but they are definitely not allies. So that is the Camp Mojaki area. I do also remember there is a quest chain that I think has you fighting dryads on the Horde side, which is a little bit interesting, and also a little disconcerting. I like dryads. They're silly, but I like them. Also, I'm sure I pointed this out when I was over in Westfall, and we'll see if I can find it on any of these. But some of the Gnoll tents have very disturbing faces still on them, which kind of just proves that the Gnolls will skin anything to make a tent out of. Doesn't look like any of these have faces on them, but there's one. Yeah. You gotta love your human skin tents. You know? Little disturbing, but hey, what are you gonna do? Now, a couple interesting things that I learned, both from Wowhead and Wowipedia, is that Feralas, if it were a real place in our real world, would take you 15 days to walk from north to south. It's a really big zone. It's almost ludicrously large, but such a beautiful area, especially if you've been doing a lot of questing in all of the adjacent areas to it that are all desert. It's kind of nice to just kind of end up in this lush, beautiful forest. Alright, what is this here? It looks like more Grimtotem underneath me. Yep, more Grimtotem to fight. Now, these Grimtotem, I think you are fighting being sent out from our next Horde area, which is where we are coming up on right about, I was going to say right about now in land. Unfortunately, I'm not quite there yet. So you know what? We're going to detour north, and we are going to go over here to Dire Maul, once a huge stronghold of the Night Elves, as you can tell by the architecture. It has pretty much been completely taken over by ogres. And there's actually a really fun quest chain. Well, not really quest chain. It was more of a challenge mode in the one of the Dire Maul wings, which is to become king of Dire Maul, and that is the tribute run. It's a lot of fun to do. Dire Maul used to be a mega dungeon, and it's been split up into, I do believe, 4 wings now. You've got the commons, the tribute run. It's either 3 or 4. I can't ever remember. I do remember running Dire Maul before the Cataclysm and always getting lost. I was hopeless. I pretty much still am hopeless, although even though I get lost, at least now I can finish the all of the wings of it. That is the advantage of it being much older content now. It's a really fun dungeon, and it's got a lot of history. The city of Diremall, the old night elf stronghold, actually held out as a high elf refuge for a very long time after the Sundering. And it did that kind of by trapping a demon and feeding off of it, but you know, hey, you do what you gotta do when you need the magic, and unfortunately your queen just managed to mess it up and break the Well of Eternity, so what else are you gonna do? Alright, here is our other area. It is Stonemall Hold, and as you can see, this is full of orcs that are friendly to the Horde. The Stonemall tribe is a tribe of orcs that are working with the Horde rather than fighting against everybody. You know, it's kind of funny when you think about the various ogres in World of Warcraft. They're a lot smarter than you usually give credit for. And there is one more Horde questing area. I think that makes it about even. I think there's actually 4 quest hubs for Alliance, and I'm pretty sure just 3 for the Horde, but that's actually fairly equal, all things considered. Now, there's also, every year, one of my favorite events. It just passed, like 3 weeks ago, I think, and that's the hatching of the hippogriffs, and that takes place here in Feralas. And at the end of it, it's just a little micro holiday, but at the end of it, you get for 24 hours a very cute little hippogriff hatchling that will sit on your shoulder. I really wish that Blizzard would make that a permanent pet and would have it actually permanently sitting on your shoulder, but you know, they never actually listen to me. Now, I would show you really cool Horde housing, but I never have really found too much on the Horde side unless it's the occasional Blood Elf house or Goblin house that I really consider for good Horde housing. Unfortunately, most of the Horde houses tend to be a little more tents with hammocks rather than houses with beds. It is what it is. Alright, our very last Horde questing hub, which a lot of times is probably going to be the first thing that you come across as a Horde player, is Campataya. Again, it is mostly Tauren, and it will introduce you to the zone and all of that. So, that is about it. There is probably a bazillion things I missed because Feralas is a huge, huge zone with so much history to it. I mean, if you really think about it, it's, I think, one of the biggest zones in the old world, at least. And it's got a lot of history, mostly Night Elf, but still. So I'm going to finish off with a quote from the Traveler, which is one of the World of Warcraft books, about Feralas, and it is, "Feralas is a trackless wilderness of uncharted rainforest with practically every inch under the control of ogres." Which is about what we've seen. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Leave me a thumbs up if you don't mind, and I will see you next week when we move on to... Dun dun dun, where are we headed? We are headed to Desolus, which is a fun desert zone again, but you know, hey, details. So, from Onyx, from Beryl, and from me, thank you, and I'll see you guys next week.